So this is the mantra that we have been studying. The context of this mantra, as well as all of the mantras, is that of peace. To find peace within oneself. And for this, Sage Mahidas Aitareya has given us different ideas which we can incorporate into our daily life, into our mental framework, into our thoughts and ideas, and hopefully even when challenging moments come, when moments that challenge our peace arise, that is when these teachings actually get tested, and this is when whether we have been able to assimilate those teachings in our life or not, this gets tested. So the section that we have already completed is that by this that has been studied, I merge day and night. Till here we have completed. Now the next section starts. I shall speak the universal truth. I shall speak the truth. There are two sentences. They seem quite similar, but they are radically different. Why? Because the Sanskrit words that have been translated as truth, they are very different words and they are used in very different meanings. So let us analyze that a little bit. I'm trying my best to do because I have no notes in front of me today. So I have to do everything from memory. So it's a test. So the first word that is there, which has been used here, if you see, Ritam Vadishyami. Vadishyami means I will speak what is Rita, what is the truth. But this is a very specific word. Let me write it down for you. It's a simple word, and it is an extremely ancient word. And interestingly, linguistically, etymologically, this word is related, and even in its meaning, it is related to two English words, which have a very distinct meaning, but sound similar. So one English word is right. You can see the similarity that is there. That is Rita. Rita is that what is right, what is the right thing to do. Moral order, not right. In Sanskrit, right hand is dakshina. That is different. Right in this sense, in the original sense, that what is right, what is morally right, what is ethically right, what is the right thing to do. So one is this. You can see this English word completely, even in meaning, it is deeply, I think the best translation of Rita is right. But the way it has been used in the most ancient sections of the Vedas, there is another English word which is also very similar, is, do you know this word? Right. It's a rite, a ritual in the sense of ritual. For example, when you perform a fire ritual, fire ceremony, that is a rite. So the word Rita sometimes has also been used in this meaning. So these are the two meanings, and interestingly we have obviously they come from, they have Latin roots, rectus, and this is rita, but they are quite similar, not only in meaning, in form, in so many different ways. I think that is one of the beautiful things about all Indo-European languages, that you find deeply interconnected words. So, the most ancient usage of the word rita is in the sense of what is right in this meaning. So we'll disregard this meaning, because this is the meaning that we have to take in this context. And it has been used in the sense of, also in the sense of order. Order. For example, everything in this universe follows a particular order. The sun follows a particular order. So that is the rita of the sun. The seasons, the year, everything follows a particular order, a particular course. So if even one of them would fall out from their designated course, it will lead to tremendous distortion. For example, if the sun doesn't rise one day suddenly in the morning, what will happen? It will destroy everything completely. So that is their rita. This is the most ancient usage that in which this word has been used. Patanjali, he also uses this word in the context of meditation. Does anybody remember the word that he uses? The word that he uses is quite a long word. Ritam bhara. Yes, ritam bhara. Ritam bhara. The rita bearing intellect. Bhara means to bear, holding. So ritam bhara means the rita bearing, the supreme truth, the supremely right. What is supremely right? What is supremely true? The intellect, the understanding which bears that. What he beautifully says, that even though such a truth-bearing intelligence is the result of a lot of listening to the teachings of the masters, it is the result of a lot of critical analysis of their teachings so that it makes sense, but most importantly, it is the result of meditation on those teachings. So he places tremendous importance on meditation, and when through meditation it is actualized, it is internalized, then he says that the difference between this for him, this understanding, the understanding of the truth as it is, arises not by listening to somebody's teachings, not by critical analysis, because what he says is that the understanding that we gain by listening to the master's teachings, or the understanding that we gain through our own critical analysis, is very general in nature and lacks specific details. This is very logical. Because, for example, if I tell you about fire, what I can tell you about fire, my words will give a very general description. Fire is hot, fire radiates light, fire is this, fire is that. Even the word fire itself can give a very general picture of what the thing that is there might be. If, for example, there is a fire on top of the mountain, If I say fire and you hear it, you understand it, you have a general picture. Okay, there is fire. But how big the fire is, how specific, what kind of fire is it, for that we have to go there, we have to experience it ourselves. There will be no specific knowledge, there will be very general knowledge. Even critical analysis. What is critical analysis? Logical reasoning. You will apply logical reasoning. You see a column of smoke arising there. You critically analyze, because there is smoke, there must be fire. So even though I cannot see fire, but the fire must be there because I can see smoke. So this is critical analysis. But this doesn't mean that you have actually seen the fire. You can only be sure. First you hear somebody saying, see, fire. And then the second thing, is it really fire? Yeah, I think so, it's fire because I can see the smoke. So you, just for your own assurance, that's all. But neither he nor you, none of these two have any specific knowledge of the fire there. For that, both of them have to go there. And as I've been repeatedly pointing out, when I was in Bali, we went to see a volcano which was active, and it became active just a few months after we came back. But on that day, it was not active, but there was a little bit of fog up there, like a small little bit of cloud or something, and my host says, look, I think the volcano is active today. There is fire up there. And yeah, sure. See, fog is there, so it must be there. Both of us fine and happy. And after half an hour, while we are walking around, we realized that the fog was just fog, which was blown away by the wind, and then there was no fire. So we would have had to walk 5 kilometers on top of the Mount Gunung Agung, the most sacred mountain of Bali, to see whether the fire is there or not, to have a direct, specific understanding. So what Patanjali there says, that Ridambhara Prajna, this word that he uses, he uses it for that kind of understanding which is based in one's own experience. Neither based on somebody else's teachings, nor is it based on our own reasoning, but it is based on our own experience. That is for him Ridambhara Pratya. It's a very specific. So he also uses the word Rida there for a kind of higher truth. So there are two ways of interpreting this section, that I shall speak what is the higher truth, and I shall speak what is the lower truth. Sandadhami Ritam. रहने दो ये सब रहने दो. Yes. Sandadhami Ritam. Yes. Sandadhami Ritam vadishyami. Sandadhami Ritam vadishyami. Okay. No. I was on track. Okay. So, now the two ways of explaining this would be that either we say that I shall speak the higher truth, which is based on my experience. Now, that is where I left. Direct experience. But now my direct experience is that I am pure consciousness, for example. That is the direct experience of the masters. I am pure consciousness, and I am unborn, timeless, eternal. This is the truth. And when I say, I'm saying the truth. But if somebody asks me, I reach somebody's home and he asks me that, who are you? I'm the Supreme Truth. What is your name? People call me with endless names. Someone calls me Brahman, someone calls me pure consciousness, Atman, Sat. When were you born, sir? I'm unborn, timeless. He's speaking the truth. There should be no problem with that. But my master used to get angry and irritated when somebody would answer like this, because there are sometimes people who, when they reach such kind of people, my kind of people, then they start speaking this language. And that is obviously what I know, but that's not what I meant. So the second sentence is, but I will also speak the conventional truth. I will speak the truth that is there from my experience, but I will also speak the conventional truth. And this is something that what I said was simply meant as a joke, but in reality, many scholars of Buddhism and many scholars of the Upanishads, they get confused because sometimes the Buddha is speaking the conventional language, or sometimes the language of his own experience. The same thing we find in the Upanishads. Sometimes the Upanishadic masters are speaking the conventional language, and sometimes they are speaking the language of their own experience. And if a person does not realize this, so sometimes you will see a very strong language of duality. So for example, in some of the Upanishad mantras, Dva Suparna, there are two birds, Sayuja, who always live together. Sakhaya, they are best friends. Samane Vrikshe, Parishasvajate, they abide on the same tree. So two, this very strong sense of duality is there. Two birds, the individual and the universal, residing within the name. The stories of Krishna and Arjuna, all this, the sense of duality, Nara, Narayana, that sense of duality is very strongly there. But then you will also find sections in the Vedas themselves that even though there is only one bird, ekam suparnam santam vipraha bahudha vadanti, that there is only one bird, but the wise speak of it at times as two. The same thing we find in the Mahabharata. There are these two characters, Arjuna, who is representing the individual, and Krishna, the universal. But then sometimes in the Mahabharata, elsewhere, you will also find Krishna saying that I am the very essence of Arjuna, and Arjuna is my very essence. We both are completely inseparable. So, depending sometimes that the language of duality is spoken, sometimes the language of the higher truth is spoken. Both are true. Both are acknowledged as true. So if I'm saying that I was born on the 12th November, I'm not lying. And when I'm saying that I'm eternal, timeless, I was never born, I'm also not lying. Both are true, but they are true from two very different perspectives. One is true from the higher truth, from the supreme level, and this two levels of truth, I think, even for example, in the description of the universe as it is on the quantum level and as it is on a universal level, these two descriptions are, first of all, very different. And I think one of the biggest problems against getting a theory of everything in the scientific field, as much as I understand, is to merge these two descriptions together. They are mutually exclusive descriptions, which means that the description which we have on the quantum level completely falsifies the description that we have on a ground level, and the description which we have on the ground level seems to falsify the description that we have on the quantum level, and yet both descriptions are working well, yet scientists believe that both of them cannot be correct. Only one of them will be correct, but still both of them are accepted. So in the same way also on this level of understanding, in these teachings, there is a higher level of truth, and then there is a lower level of truth. We need to know when to speak which truth. For ourselves, we constantly have to remind ourselves of the higher truth, so that we don't get deceived by the lower truth, by the conventional truth. But when we deal with others, when I'm going to fill up my forms for the passport, then I have to answer the conventional truth. I have to deal in my daily life as if, but that should not condition supremely. I know both sides. I know this side of the truth. I know that. So it's more, the higher truth is more for personal reminder. It is of no use in dealing with others, except if someone wants to make a show that I know this. This is what I know. I'm the supreme truth. Then, of course, it's a different story. Then you can go on proclaiming on the streets and saying, I am Brahman, I'm pure consciousness. But unless you don't want to do that, then that is just for one's self-reminder, so that we remember also the other side of the reality. This is one way of creating this distinction between Rita would be as the truth is for the masters through their direct inner experience. So I will speak that, and I will also speak Satya. Satya is more conventional. What everybody believes to be true. Because I was born on the 12th November, everybody believes that to be true, so that is Satya. That's how things in the external world are. This is one way of explaining the difference between Rita and the other world is Satya. As you can see in the original sentence, Ritam vadishyami, Satyam vadishyami. Vadishyami means I will speak. I will speak what is Rita, what is the higher truth, what is the universal truth, and I will also speak the truth, the conventional truth, the lower truth. This is one way of explaining the difference between Rita and Satya. The other possible explanation of Rita is more internal also in this case. It simply means that Rita is, see, there are two types of speeches that are going on. Do you follow me? There are two types of speeches. One is the external speech that I'm speaking, which you can hear. And then there is an internal chattering, which only I have access to. Maybe even when I'm not speaking, when I'm going into external silence, that internal chattering still goes on. And hopefully with the practice of external silence, it calms down a little bit. Hopefully. Whether it happens or not, some people say that it happens. But I don't know. But you follow me, there are these two types of talking, two types of speech. One is external speech and one is internal speech. So, Rita is internal speech as long as it reflects the object as it is. Then it is then internal speech is Rita. And external speech, as long as it reflects an object as it is, to the best of my capacity, it is Satya. Do you understand the difference? The definition of truth is that it should be, at least to the best of my capacity, it should reflect that what I know to the best of my capacity. If I know that the person is standing outside on the road, to the best of my capacity that he is maybe still standing, and if I say that the person is just outside, I'm speaking the truth. But if maybe after 2 minutes the person leaves, then it's still from my perspective, because I have experienced it, I know it to the best of my capacity that he was standing there, so I'm speaking the truth. You cannot say that I'm lying, because I cannot know that he left. I saw him standing there. So, the prayer here is that internally, whatever I think, whatever internal speech goes on, I will speak that Rita, which means I will constantly analyze, does it reflect the truth to the best of my capacity or not? So whatever even internal thinking is going on, I will constantly pause and ask myself, whatever I'm speaking, am I just speaking? Or is it reflecting the reality as it is known to me or not? And the same analysis which goes on for internal truth, internal speech, should also go on for external speech. Whatever I'm saying, does it reflect to the best of my capacity, my understanding as things are or not? So that is what, do you follow me? That is clear. Yeah. So that is what is Rita and Satya. So it can be interpreted in both ways. The masters have different, depending on different masters who have interpreted it differently. Then such a practice in the understanding of Mahidasa Aitareya leads to internal peace. Ritam Vadishyami, this constant analysis of what we are speaking, what we are even not only externally but even internally, what we are speaking. That leads to peace. Now the next sentence. I shall speak the universal truth. I shall speak the truth. May that protect me. May that protect me. Now what does that mean? Either that, because as in English language, that refers to what has been spoken just before. So it refers to the truth. May that truth protect me. Either it can mean that, or the Sanskrit word for that is the same. Tat. It's tat. Tat means that. It's the Sanskrit word for that. And in Sanskrit, the word for that is also the word for pure consciousness. It's also the word for pure consciousness. Whatever Brahman, Atman, these are just some of the countless words that have been used. Brahman, Atman, Tat, that, Sat, pure existence, and Om. And that is why you might have come across this expression very often, particularly if you have been traveling in India. The three names of Brahman said together. Om, Tat, Sat. You heard this. Om Tat Sat. Many masters also at the end of their class, they will say Om Tat Sat. Finish. Om Tat Sat. That is like the final thing. Om Tat Sat. I think, haven't I included it here? Yeah, it's here at the end of it. Om Tat Sat. We never say it, but at least it's there. Om Tat Sat. Sarve bhavantu sukhinas, sarve santu niramayaha, sarve bhadrani pashyantu, ma kaschit dukha bhag bhavet. Om Shanti, 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 Om Tat Sat. So these are the three names that towards the end of the Bhagavad Gita, in the 17th chapter, Krishna says that these are the three ways of to point. They are not names. They are not proper names. They are simply pointers. Om is a pointer, Tat is a pointer, and Sat is a pointer. It's like this. Not like this. But like this. Om, Tat, Sat. Just pointers to bring awareness and our attention back into ourselves when we understand their meaning. And that is why Krishna there says that those who desire freedom from the darkness of ignorance, they perform yajnas, ceremonies, sacrifices. And remember, yoga is also a form of yajna. Asana, pranayama is a form of yajna. It is a form of tapas, austerity. He says yajna, tapas, and charity. Whoever wants to do them without getting anything in return in worldly terms except for internal purification of the heart, and freedom from the darkness of ignorance, they may perform these activities by pronouncing Tat. This designation. So whenever they give something to someone, share something, Tat. Om Tat Sat. That's how the masters do. They give you something, they give you a fruit, Om Tat Sat. For them it is a reminder that I'm giving this fruit not for any, I'm telling you what's going on in the heads of the masters. Because if you go to them and they give you a fruit, they might just say Om Tat Sat, and you might think that this is a mantra which they have blessed it. No, what is going on in their head is that I'm giving this fruit, but this is for them, this is for the benefit of. What I want is just freedom from the darkness of ignorance, forgetfulness of my true nature. That's all. Inner purification, that's all. I don't want any other reward with this. This has been given. So this is the idea that when they would say Om Tat Sat, in whatever they do. In fact, if you look at the Bhagavad Gita, for example, the Gita, the 18 chapters, people recite it so often. And we did the recitation when Gita ji passed away in her memory. If you noticed carefully, if you were there, then at the end of every chapter we said, Om Tat Sat iti Srimad Bhagavad Gita su Upanishadsu Om Tat Sat. So every time that was, for someone who has this understanding, a reminder that this recitation of the Bhagavad Gita is not for any worldly gains, it is not for any worldly rewards, it's not for fame, it's not for money, it's not for anything, it's for internal purification, it's for internal peace. It's as a method to raise me above my darkness of ignorance, my forgetfulness of my true nature. That is what that Om Tat Sat, that Tat in that reminds me, because it just makes me aware of that. So Tat, as a word itself, points to the universal consciousness. As you can see from the famous sentences, Tattvamasi, you are that, thou art that. It's a very famous quintessential sentence where the word that has been used for the universal essence. So that can also refer to that in this context. It depends how you want to interpret it. That can refer to the truth, that can refer to that universal consciousness. Ultimately, that is what the higher truth is. So however you interpret it, the meaning ultimately becomes the same. May that protect me, may that protect me by me. It's the student. How does the student want to acquire protection? By giving wisdom to me. Because as a student, he is in search of the light of knowledge. And light is what protects us. Darkness is what makes us lost. And light shows us the path. And that showing us the path, that is the protection that light can offer to us. So, avatu is another very interesting word. I have translated it as protect me, isn't it? May that protect me. So avatu means may it protect. The root is av. It is, by the way, the same root of the word om. Om is also derived from this root grammatically. Why it is a very interesting root is that around 600 BC, a precursor of Patanjali, on whom Patanjali wrote a detailed commentary. Patanjali wrote a Yogena Chittasya Padena Vacha, a great grammatical commentary, which is known as the great commentary, the big commentary. It's in, even today when we study it, it's practically in 6 volumes. And to write something in 6 volumes back then, when paper and everything was so scarce and inaccessible, and sometimes the leaves on which he had written his commentary, the leaves were used to, not, I don't specifically, not in the case of Patanjali, but these leaves sometimes used to be eaten away by goats or by mice. You know. And yet, you put so much effort in writing it down. So, the master, the rishi, on whom Patanjali writes the commentary, he is considered one of the greatest grammarians, and he gives all these meanings of the 2000 roots, of which every Sanskrit word is produced. Sanskrit has, in case those who are studying Sanskrit, they might find it interesting, that every Sanskrit word, and Sanskrit can have countless words, an infinite number, really an infinite number of words. A good Sanskrit scholar can coin extremely new words, can write a whole book with those words without the common people who are conditioned by the words being used in daily language, without them understanding, but somebody who has a good base of grammar and can see that, okay, wow, this is the root and this is the suffix and prefix, he will make out the meaning. And you can place so much in Sanskrit around that you can make hymns with the same letter, nun, 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 like this, but with total meaning. This is what when we study Sanskrit literature, we have to study all these things. In fact, lately I have been exploring a work. It is called Shishupala Vadha the killing of Shishupala by Krishna. And why I got interested in this particular work of literature, I think 6th or 7th century, great work of Sanskrit literature, because several Western scholars have seen some very deep connection between Patanjali's Yoga Sutras and between this epic. So I wanted to explore this connection between the Patanjali's Yoga Sutra philosophy into a very literature presentation. And the author of this text is considered one of the greatest literary figures of Sanskrit literature, Mahakavi Magha. And he plays around a lot with words in such a way. So you will have hymns and hymns together with the same letter. And then you have to understand the whole hymn with the same letter. That is how he plays around like this. So in any case, just to give you a little bit an idea, that this root of which I said means protection, from which also the word Om has been derived. It means also to go, it means also to desire, it means to love, it means to satisfy, it means to understand, it means to enter within, it means to listen, it means to ask, it means to express a desire, it means to kindle the knowledge of fire, it means to acquire, it even means to embrace, to hug, it means to be non-violent, it means to give, it means to divide, and it means to increase. This is how many meanings this one root has. Why I listed all these meanings? Because this is the only root in Sanskrit language which has so many meanings. The longest list of meanings. Otherwise, they just have usually 2 or 3 meanings. But this one has the longest list of meaning. And now, how to, keeping this rule, this grammatical rule in mind, how to translate Tanma Mavatu. May that protect me. May that come to me. May that desire me. May that love me. May that satisfy me. May that understand me. May that enter within me. May that kindle the wisdom within me. May that be acquired by me. May that embrace me. May that give itself to me. So many meanings. May that increase me. So many meanings can be given. I've just given the first meaning. But this is how Sanskrit language functions. In fact, I think it was recently a famous Sanskrit scholar from the West who said that, what did he precisely say? That Sanskrit can mean, a word in Sanskrit can mean what it refers to, what is the opposite of that, and everything that lies in between.
Wow.
Every Sanskrit word refers to that, what it means, the opposite of that, and everything that lies in between. That is the kind of language that Sanskrit is, and yet it is very, very precise, deeply precise. When it goes into the hands of the logicians, I would be the Sanskrit logicians, when they use Sanskrit language, then the kind of precision that they have was unknown to the whole world, I think, till the 18th, 19th century. That is how to pick up a particular notion without picking up anything else, and how to use words in such a way. That has to be learned from them. Sorry? Because if you look at the grammatical construction of how the letter Om is derived, then the grammatical rules derive it from the root of. Va becomes U, A, U, O, That is how. And then, I don't remember now the particular sutra. There is avater, or something like this. So the suffix is av, a, u, then it becomes om. Yes. That is how in Sanskrit you form words. The word formation process in Sanskrit is always plus equal to. Verb plus suffix is equal to the word. So it can all, you can in fact make very softwares like this and construct words through such softwares. That is what one of my friends right now is doing at the Heidelberg University. He is from Benares. And I'm happy that he is using my commentary on Ashtadhyay as a basis for that work. No, what he's doing, he's creating a whole software which does mathematically produce words, Sanskrit words like this. So you just have to feed in the root, and then the words come out from if you feed in all the grammatical rules of Sanskrit, then with the exceptions and everything, then proper word formation. The computer can tell you what is the proper word without you telling the computer. That is the work that he's doing. Two people involved in it. One is the Vice Chancellor of Somnath Sanskrit University in Gujarat. He was earlier posted also in Heidelberg, and then these two friends. It's interesting, very interesting. In any case, so coming back to our discussion at hand.
But when we learn Ashtadhyay, the first thing I have to learn is Ayun Rilrik. So that helps you to make the roots.
Yes. Ayun Rilrik
that is all for this.
Yes. That is how, in fact, Ashtadhyay is nothing but you can look at it really as a huge computer program, which you, by memorizing it, you instill it in your mind. And then without Ashtadhyay telling you the actual words, Ashtadhyay doesn't tell you the words. Ashtadhyay just gives you the rules, that's all. But you can then start creating your own words. And that is what scholars throughout the centuries have been doing. So you have an endless possibility of words in Sanskrit language. No dictionary of Sanskrit language can ever be complete. And you cannot create a complete dictionary of Sanskrit language because there are an infinite number of possible combinations and they will all be grammatically valid. Okay. Coming back to the discussion that we are, may that protect the speaker, may that protect the speaker, may that protect me, may that protect the speaker. Why he's saying it 2 times? First of all, may he protect me during my sadhana, during my practice, and then may the protection also continue after the sadhana, the practice is over. So may both of us be protected when we are studying, and may both of us also be protected after the study is over, the study is finished. May. So the phala, the result of this study, which for the case of the student would be the removal of ignorance, and for the teacher it will be the satisfaction that the student has understood it well and has assimilated it and is ready to pass it on. That idea, that is what the word, because some of you might recognize the word sampradaya, which is usually translated as tradition, lineage. Lineage would be a better word. And sadly, today in India, as the idea of sectarianism came into the country, they had to find a Sanskrit word for sect. The same problem, like there was no Sanskrit word for religion. So then they took a Sanskrit word dharma. I've been speaking about this again and again. And dharma, which has nothing to do with religion, and yet they have taken it. And now dharma has become a bad word. Because religion inherently has a bad connotation. And the same thing happens with sect. Now today, to be sampradayika, even to say to someone that you are a sampradayika in Hindi language, it's an insult to someone. Sadly. It's like saying that you are sectarian, you are narrow-minded, you have no breadth. And yet, sampradaya simply means to give. Daya means to give. Sampradaya means to give. The knowledge that the teachers gave us, and now we are ready to give further, after assimilating ourselves. So there is no idea of limitation. On the contrary, there should be a proper understanding of these teachings. Don't allow any sectarian limitation in there. This is just the way my teacher has experienced the truth. This by no means means that this is the only truth. If somebody concludes that, then it's against the basic principles of the Vedic teachings. So, but the satisfaction that a teacher has, that now the student has received this wisdom, he's ready to assimilate it, he's ready to benefit from it in his own life, and then he's ready to pass it on. So that this wisdom that gives peace, calmness in our lives, the capacity to retain that peace even in moments of trial, moments of insult, moments of harshness, the capacity to retain that inner peace. That has been, first of all, cultivated, and then now my student is ready to pass it on to the further generations, so also the future generations will benefit from this peace after I am gone. This satisfaction may be there to the teacher. This is what protection means. At the end, he says, may that protect the speaker. This has been spoken twice, which means 3 times. So the last one, if you compare this section with the first one, I think the only difference that is there Avatu Vaktaram is said once, and here it is twice. The reason is that in the Vedas, this has no specific meaning. This is just in the Vedas, when a particular chapter finishes, then the masters repeat the last 2 words. Excuse me. The masters repeat the last 2 or 3 words twice. So this is just to indicate, because the mantra from where it has been originally taken, this lies at the end of the 7th chapter, as well as the 2nd book. So now the first chapter of the 3rd book is going to start. So really a huge section finishes. So that's why the master has repeated himself twice. So now, just to summarize the whole mantra, once again what Mahidasa Aitareya said, just to summarize it in a few sentences. How is peace to be acquired in the understanding of Mahidasa Aitareya? By discovering what is self-evident through incessant contemplation day and night, through remaining aware of that inner essence day and night. How does that happen? By contemplating, first of all, on the teachings that have been received through the vehicles of speech and mind. We receive teachings from the masters through the vehicle of speech, and we do our own critical analysis through the vehicle of the mind. And when we contemplate on both of these and then try to experience it in our life, that is when our own speech, yes, also because Vangme Manasi Pratishtita, when our speech and mind, both of them are engaged for the same purpose, We don't speak anything else than this, and we don't think anything else than this. Then, in his understanding, in Mahidasa Aitareya's understanding, peace, complete peace, calmness is found within. So, this is what is for him the method to find total peace. And in a sense, I don't see any difference at all with what Patanjali has spoken in the context of Ritambhara Prajna and finding complete peace through meditation. So the whole journey of Patanjali's first chapter of meditation and this mantra, they really beautifully correlate with each other. So in this way we have completed this mantra, and now why I spent a little bit more time to conclude this, because we won't have the class on Saturday. So because then on Sunday the camp starts on the Bhagavad Gita. This time we will, because we divided the Bhagavad Gita into 3 sections, which is the traditional way of dividing the Bhagavad Gita. The first section was on karma, the second section on devotion, and the third section on dhyana, on wisdom, on experiential wisdom. So this year we will be focusing more on the third section. Though of course I am fully aware that most of my listeners probably will not have heard my previous talks, so I will certainly give an introduction, a general introduction to the Bhagavad Gita, but more focus will be on the third section, the last section of the Bhagavad Gita, which is not the section on karma, action, not the section on devotion, but the section on knowledge. So it is somehow also deeply related to the Upanishads. So we will start that on Sunday at 2 in the afternoon. No, because Bhakti and Karma happened already, we have discussed it.
Okay.
The first 6 chapters are about Karma Yoga. They are referred to as Karma Shatka, the 6 chapters on Karma. The second group of 6 chapters, Bhakti Shatka or Upasana Shatka. And the third group of 6 chapters is referred to as Jnana Shatka. Jnana Shatka, which means the 6 chapters of I've recently, just this reminds me something. In Sanskrit we have this interchangeability of sa and ha. Remember, for example, Saraswati can be Haraswati, and Sarita, river, can be Harita. And what is sa in Sanskrit is usually, what is ha in Sanskrit is usually sa in Greek. So for example, Sukratus and Sukratuhu in Sanskrit. So you see, and this even exists in English. Just recently I noticed this. 6, number 6, and hexagon. Hexagon with the 6 points, because it has 6 points. So 6, that 6, the sa of 6 changes into ha. Huh? Again is Greek, so it comes from Greek. It comes from Greek. So that interchangeability, which is there, which is fundamental also to the difference between the ancient Iranian culture and the ancient Indian culture, because Ahura Mazda, Asura, that Persian, all that. So it's interesting that even in English, this grammatical rule of Sanskrit, its influence can even be found in English language. In any case, so that was, with this we end, and now comes the smallest of all the mantras. The next 2 mantras are really the most ancient ones out of these 10, the most ancient ones. This one was the 3rd most ancient one, and the next 2, the smallest one, and the next one, the next 2, they are the most ancient mantras out of these 10. So we will approach them after the camp. Yes. Okay. So let us conclude. सर्वे भवन्तु सुखिनः, सर्वे सन्तु निरामयाः, सर्वे भद्राणि पश्यन्तु, मा कश्चित् दुःखभाग् भवेत्। ॐ शान्तिः।